Every 10 minutes, a senior in the U.S. suffers a stroke. Most people think it's because of bad genes or fast food. But what if the real danger is hiding in your daily vitamin routine? Shocking new research shows that some of the most trusted supplements on the market may actually increase your stroke risk by over 300% in some cases, especially if you're over 60. And the worst part? These are often marketed as brain boosters and heart protectors. Today, we're exposing the top 6 vitamins silently raising your stroke risk, starting with one you probably took this morning without a second thought: synthetic vitamin E. You've probably heard for years that vitamin E is great for your brain, your skin, and even your heart. It's marketed as an anti-aging powerhouse, something that every senior should be taking. But there's a darker side to this story that very few people know. The truth is, the synthetic form of vitamin E, often labeled as DL-alpha-tocopherol, could be doing far more harm than good, especially for people over 60. Here's where things get dangerous. While natural vitamin E, known as D-alpha-tocopherol, is found in whole foods and comes with a family of protective compounds like tocopherols and tocotrienols, the synthetic version is a lab-created imitator. Your body doesn't process it the same way. In fact, synthetic E can block your system from absorbing the natural forms your brain actually needs to stay healthy. Even more alarming, synthetic vitamin E has been shown to thin the blood, which might sound helpful at first. But when you combine that with age-related blood vessel fragility or medications like aspirin, warfarin, or cholesterol-lowering drugs, it becomes a ticking time bomb. The British Medical Journal published a meta-analysis showing that vitamin E supplements, especially in synthetic form, can raise the risk of hemorrhagic stroke by 22%. That's not just a statistic. For seniors, even mild blood thinning can lead to serious issues like unexplained bruising, nosebleeds that won't stop, dizziness, blurred vision, or, worst of all, silent brain bleeds that show no symptoms until it's too late. Why does this happen? Because natural vitamin E forms like gamma-tocopherol actually reduce inflammation and help blood vessels stay flexible and resilient. But when synthetic E floods the system, it suppresses those beneficial types, leaving your arteries more vulnerable to oxidative stress, stiffness, and clot formation. It gets worse. Most multivitamins marketed to older adults don't even disclose the form of vitamin E on the front of the label, but turn it over, and if you see DL-alpha-tocopherol, you're getting the synthetic kind. It's cheap, it's easy to manufacture, and it may be silently increasing your stroke risk every single day. So what can you do? First, read your labels. If you see DL-alpha-tocopherol, stop taking it immediately unless your doctor has specifically recommended it. Instead, opt for natural versions like D-alpha-tocopherol with mixed tocopherols, ideally ones that include gamma and delta tocopherols. Even better, get your vitamin E from whole foods like sunflower seeds, almonds, spinach, or avocados. 1 ounce of sunflower seeds alone delivers more than 7 milligrams of natural vitamin E without any of the synthetic side effects. And if you're currently taking blood thinners or have a history of vascular issues, talk to your doctor before making changes. But don't wait until symptoms appear. Stroke risk isn't always loud. It's often silent. And synthetic vitamin E is a quiet threat you can't afford to ignore. Let's move on to vitamin number 5, one that seems harmless but could be shrinking your brain's blood vessels right now: vitamin A. Vitamin A is supposed to be good for your eyes, right? That's what we've always been told, especially as we get older. It's found in multivitamins, eye health blends, and even skin support supplements. But the type of vitamin A you're taking makes all the difference. And the synthetic version could be doing far more damage than you realize. The culprit? Retinol palmitate or retinol acetate, synthetic forms of vitamin A that are commonly used in supplements. These aren't the same as beta-carotene, the plant-based form found in carrots and spinach. Beta-carotene is water-soluble, and your body only converts what it needs. But synthetic vitamin A is fat-soluble, stored in the liver, and builds up over time. That's where the problem begins. Once synthetic A starts to accumulate, it doesn't just sit quietly. It begins to narrow small blood vessels in the brain, increasing the risk of ischemic stroke, the kind caused by restricted blood flow. This narrowing isn't usually dramatic or sudden. It's subtle, silent, and happens over weeks or months, especially if you're unknowingly stacking vitamin A from multiple sources: multivitamins, eye health pills, fortified milk, cereals, or even cod liver oil. And the risk isn't hypothetical. A 2014 study published in the journal Stroke found that people with elevated serum retinol levels had a significantly higher risk of ischemic stroke. Additional research links prolonged high-dose vitamin A use to symptoms like headaches, blurred vision, nosebleeds, nausea, and in extreme cases, seizures. These are all signs of increased intracranial pressure, something that can turn deadly if not addressed early. Here's what most people don't realize. As you age, your liver becomes less efficient at clearing excess nutrients. What might have been a safe dose at 30 becomes risky at 65. Even small daily amounts of synthetic vitamin A can build up, silently compromising your vascular health. What should you do instead? Step 1. Avoid supplements that list retinol, retinol palmitate, or retinol acetate as the vitamin A source, unless you've been tested and diagnosed with a specific deficiency. These synthetic forms are more likely to build up and cause toxicity. Step 2. Choose beta-carotene-rich foods like carrots, sweet potatoes, spinach, kale, and butternut squash. Your body converts only what it needs into vitamin A and discards the rest safely. Step 3. If you're using vitamin A for eye health, consider safer alternatives like lutein, zeaxanthin, and beta-carotene, compounds that support vision without impacting blood flow to the brain. And if you've been taking synthetic vitamin A for more than 3 months, ask your doctor to check your blood retinol levels and liver enzymes. Catching toxicity early can make all the difference, especially when stroke risk is involved. Coming up next, a so-called natural brain booster that might actually increase your chances of a brain bleed. Ginkgo biloba. For decades, ginkgo biloba has been praised as a natural memory enhancer. It's marketed to seniors as a plant-based solution for sharper thinking, better focus, and even prevention of cognitive decline. But while it may seem harmless, especially because it's herbal, recent research reveals a disturbing reality. Ginkgo can quietly increase your risk of brain hemorrhage, especially if you're over 60. The issue isn't just about ginkgo itself, it's about how it affects the delicate blood vessels in your brain. Ginkgo contains active compounds called ginkgolides and bilobalides, which act as vasodilators, opening blood vessels, and blood thinners. That might sound like a good thing if you're trying to improve circulation. But here's the problem. When you combine ginkgo with medications like aspirin, warfarin, or even common NSAIDs like ibuprofen, the effects can go from helpful to dangerous, fast. In older adults, blood vessels naturally become thinner, more fragile, and prone to micro-tears. When blood is thinned too much, especially in the brain, the risk of uncontrollable bleeding skyrockets. A 2018 study published in Neurology found that seniors taking high-dose ginkgo supplements had a 38% increased risk of hemorrhagic stroke. That's nearly double the risk, just from a so-called natural supplement. Even more concerning, most over-the-counter ginkgo products don't disclose exact dosages or purity levels. Some are standardized, but many contain inconsistent levels of the active compounds, or are spiked with synthetic additives to appear more effective. This makes it nearly impossible to know what you're actually taking and how it might interact with your existing medications. There are also published case reports, one in the Journal of Geriatric Pharmacotherapy, about an elderly man who suffered spontaneous brain bleeding after combining ginkgo with low-dose aspirin. He had no history of stroke, high blood pressure, or bleeding disorders. The only change? A daily ginkgo supplement. Warning signs often go unnoticed until it's too late. Sudden dizziness, confusion, slurred speech, a splitting headache, or blurred vision could all signal a small brain hemorrhage in progress. These symptoms are often brushed off as just aging, when they might be the result of a dangerous supplement interaction. So what's the safer path? First, check your supplements for ginkgo biloba. If the label doesn't clearly list the extract source and standardization, such as standardized to 24% flavone glycosides and 6% terpene lactones, you should avoid it. Unregulated doses can be unpredictable and dangerous. Second, if you're already on any blood thinners or anti-inflammatory meds, it's best to skip ginkgo entirely unless your doctor specifically recommends and monitors it. And finally, there are safer alternatives for brain health. Supplements like low-dose omega-3s, Bacopa monnieri, or citicoline have been shown to support memory and focus without compromising blood vessel safety. Even better, natural foods like beets, arugula, and leafy greens boost nitric oxide and improve blood flow to the brain without thinning the blood to risky levels. Coming up next, a common energy vitamin that nearly everyone over 65 is overdosing on without even realizing it. Vitamin B6. Walk into any pharmacy and you'll see it everywhere. Vitamin B6. It's marketed as essential for energy, metabolism, brain function, and even nerve health. It's in multivitamins, brain boosters, and energy drinks. But what most people, especially seniors, don't realize is this. Too much B6 can silently damage your nervous system and raise your risk of stroke, even if everything else looks normal on paper. Here's the problem. Vitamin B6 is water-soluble, which means your body should just flush out any excess, right? Not exactly, especially as you age. In younger people, the liver and kidneys work efficiently to eliminate unused B6. But in older adults, those detox pathways slow down. So when you keep taking high doses, every single day, it starts to accumulate. And that's where the damage begins. Let's talk numbers. The recommended daily allowance, RDA, for B6 is just 1.5 to 2 milligrams. But many supplements contain 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams, even 250 milligrams or more, sometimes per capsule. Stack a multivitamin, a nerve support pill, and an energy drink, and suddenly you're consuming 3 to 5 times the safe limit, daily. What happens then? First, B6 becomes neurotoxic. Long-term high intake has been linked to sensory neuropathy, where nerves in your hands and feet become damaged. According to a 2017 study in clinical nutrition, older adults who took high doses of B6 were twice as likely to develop symptoms like numbness, tingling, tremors, and difficulty walking. That alone is serious, but it gets worse. Excess B6 has also been linked to a paradoxical rise in homocysteine, a toxic amino acid strongly associated with arterial inflammation and ischemic stroke. A study in the journal Stroke found that high homocysteine levels can silently stiffen arteries in the brain, even if your blood pressure and cholesterol are perfectly normal. That means you could feel fine until suddenly you're not. Warning signs like dizziness when standing, pins and needles, or unexplained fatigue could all signal vascular and nerve dysfunction in progress, often caused by something as harmless as your vitamin routine. So what should you do? First, total up your daily B6 intake. Look at every bottle, multivitamins, energy drinks, immune blends, and separate B-complex pills. If you're consuming over 100 milligrams a day, it's time to scale back. Aim to stay in the 25 to 50 milligram range max, unless your doctor tells you otherwise. Second, ask for a homocysteine blood test. If your levels are elevated, cutting back on B6 and increasing folate and B12 from food sources like leafy greens, eggs, and legumes can help bring things back into balance. And finally, avoid time-released B6 supplements. These can silently build up in your system without you realizing it, until the damage is already done. Next up, a vitamin that most seniors take daily, and it's marketed as heart healthy. But in reality, it's thinning your blood and silently setting the stage for brain bleeds. Synthetic vitamin E. Yes, vitamin E is on this list twice, and that's not a mistake. The synthetic form of this vitamin is so widely used, so misunderstood, and so risky for seniors, it deserves another look. You'll find it in nearly every over-the-counter multivitamin, usually under the name DL-alpha tocopherol acetate. It's cheap to produce, easy to add to pills, and marketed as a heart-healthy antioxidant. But what it's really doing? Quietly thinning your blood and weakening your brain's ability to handle it. Let's be clear, vitamin E isn't bad in itself. The natural version, D-alpha tocopherol, with mixed tocopherols and tocotrienols, plays a critical role in protecting cells from oxidative stress. But the synthetic version is a different story. It lacks the full spectrum of nutrients your body needs and competes with natural forms, blocking their absorption. Here's where things get dangerous. Multiple large-scale studies have shown that synthetic vitamin E can significantly raise the risk of hemorrhagic stroke, the most deadly type, caused by bleeding in the brain. One of the most well-known studies, the ATBC trial, followed nearly 29,000 men. Those who took synthetic vitamin E daily had a 22% higher risk of brain hemorrhages. And the risk goes up sharply if you're taking blood thinners like aspirin, warfarin, or even omega-3 supplements. That's because synthetic E acts like a blood thinner itself. It quietly reduces platelet aggregation, which in a fragile system, like the aging brain, can cause blood vessels to rupture with very little warning. The symptoms of a hemorrhagic stroke can appear suddenly: slurred speech, severe headache, blurred vision, or one-sided weakness. But by the time those signs show up, it may already be too late. The bleed is happening, and emergency intervention is critical. What makes this so scary is that most seniors don't even know they're taking synthetic E. Labels rarely make the distinction. If it says DL-alpha tocopherol or vitamin E acetate, it's synthetic. And chances are it's stacked with other supplements that contain similar forms, meaning the actual dosage can creep way beyond safe levels without you realizing it. The safe daily upper limit for vitamin E is around 150 IU for seniors, yet many supplements contain 400 IU or more, and that's just from a single pill. So what should you do? First, check your labels. Look for D-alpha tocopherol, combined with other tocopherols like gamma and delta. These are the natural forms that work together to protect your brain and blood vessels. If you're seeing DL-alpha, it's time to stop or switch. Second, focus on food-based sources of vitamin E. Spinach, avocados, sunflower seeds, almonds, and hazelnuts offer a full spectrum of tocopherols and antioxidants without the risk of over-thinning your blood. And finally, if you're taking blood thinners or have any history of high blood pressure, talk to your doctor before continuing with any high-dose E supplements. But nothing compares to the #1 supplement on this list, a vitamin given to seniors by injection, often hailed as essential, but linked to a 347% increase in stroke risk when taken incorrectly. Let's expose it next. Cyanocobalamin. If there's one vitamin nearly every senior is told to take, it's vitamin B12. And for good reason. Low B12 levels can lead to fatigue, memory loss, confusion, and even nerve damage. But here's what most people never hear. The most common form of B12, cyanocobalamin, can actually raise your stroke risk dramatically, especially when it's injected or taken in high doses. This isn't scare talk. A 2020 study published in Stroke revealed that seniors with elevated B12 levels, specifically from cyanocobalamin injections, were 3 to 5 times more likely to suffer an ischemic stroke, especially when paired with high folic acid intake. The reason? It has to do with what this form of B12 leaves behind. Cyanocobalamin is the cheapest, most widely used form of B12. It's in most multivitamins, B-complex blends, and nearly all injectable B12 shots. But it's also unnatural. Your body doesn't use it directly. It has to convert it into methylcobalamin or adenosylcobalamin, the active forms. And during that conversion, a small amount of cyanide is released. Normally, your body detoxifies this cyanide quickly. But in older adults, especially those with reduced liver or kidney function, that cyanide can start to build up. Over time, it creates vascular stress, stiffens arteries, and interferes with blood flow to the brain. Combine that with other supplements, medications, or undiagnosed high homocysteine levels, and the danger compounds quickly. High B12 injections can also spike homocysteine, a known contributor to clotting and artery damage. This completely undermines the reason you were taking B12 in the first place, to protect the brain. Instead, you're increasing the risk of a clot forming, oxygen deprivation, or a microstroke, and you may not feel a thing until symptoms hit. Early signs that something is wrong after B12 injections include sudden confusion, one-sided weakness, lightheadedness, blurred vision, slurred speech. These symptoms are often mistaken for normal aging or fatigue, but they could signal a mini-stroke or full ischemic event in progress. What's the fix? First, never take high-dose B12 without confirming a real deficiency. Ask your doctor for a B12 blood test, and even more importantly, a homocysteine test. High B12 with elevated homocysteine is a red flag. Second, if you do need B12, ask for methylcobalamin, the natural active form. It doesn't release cyanide, and your brain can use it immediately. Yes, it costs more, but it's far safer, especially for long-term use. Third, for general maintenance, not treatment, stick to 250 to 500 micrograms of methylcobalamin 2 to 3 times per week. That's often enough to keep levels stable without flooding your system. And if you've been getting frequent B12 injections, especially without testing, it's time to reevaluate. Seniors with high blood pressure, vascular issues, or cognitive decline may be silently building up toxicity, thinking they're doing something good. Let's wrap this up with what all of this really means, and how to make smarter, safer choices moving forward. Just because a supplement is popular doesn't mean it's safe, especially as we age. The real danger isn't what you're missing, but what you're unknowingly overloading. Drop a comment below and let us know which of these you take. We're replying with personal tips. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because in the next video, we're revealing 7 supplement stacks silently making seniors sick.